Hey, it's Andy Yanez, and you're listening to Pod Slam and Jamma. This is going to be our third and final segment of a three-segment series. I keep wanting to say episode. This is a three-segment series focusing on name, image, and likeness, or NIL, as you might hear. This three-segment series is focusing on Star Pizza and Hoop and Holler, the University of Houston semi-collective, not full collective, semi-collective, that has done you might know them for the commercials with Star Pizza, SACAF commercials with different players. And if you haven't checked out the first two segments, I encourage you to go back and do it in the archives. We focus on what it was like to work with athletes, and we also focused on the origins of Hoop and Holler and how that came to be. And on this and final segment, we will focus on Houston NIL as a whole. Obviously, of course, like I mentioned in the first segment, if you go back and watch that, NIL has really changed the college landscape since it became legalized in June 2020 or 2021, the summer of 2021. It's kind of changed the college world. And at the University of Houston, you see NIL deals. Obviously, you guys with Star Peaks are kind of the most prominent ones just in terms of the popularity of the commercials. But you see other deals here and there with various different businesses across the Houston area. So I want to start, and this is going to be the focus on this segment, just kind of the importance with NIL for the University of Houston athletics as a whole. Something that we've touched on in the past is that really when you kind of launched Hoop and Holler, yeah, it was to get y'all's feet wet and be able to you know, for lack of a better phrase, it's kind of an investment to being able to work with a lot of the players. But something that you said is that you also were interested in being able to kind of encourage others to hop on the NIL train and be able to do stuff with a lot of the Houston athletes. So what was kind of your mindset behind that? And what do you think that it's important for Houston to get in the NIL game?
Sure. Going into the Big 12, it was next year was the landscape changer, really, where we realized that what all the other schools were doing, when you see stories about this school admitting that they're, admittedly behind, on their NIL thing. Well, to me, there wasn't really ever a schedule or how much NIL you're supposed to have. Coach Sampson had said over and over again, and that the NIL wasn't as important as having players that wanted to be at Houston playing. And that was what was important to me. The pay to play thing was never important. The trying to out recruit other boosters was never important. It was never something that I was going to be able to compete with anyway. So I knew that our thing would be very small. I wanted to keep it small. I wanted to keep some of the control where we could come up with an idea. And at the end of the day, I still had to sell it to my boss at the restaurant. So everything that we did was, hey, I'm going to do this thing. Does that sound okay? Oh, sure. That sounds fun. Okay, great. And then we would do the finished product and then go from there. So there wasn't always a guarantee that it was going to work out. Sometimes it was just an investment for me and something for the player and something that we could try out and do. And that was really, like you said, getting your feet wet, figuring out where it starts, and showing that it can be done, and that if I could set up a legal entity over a few days, build a website, nothing fancy, and get a little bit of attention, then other people could do that too. And at least that if it wasn't, we weren't expecting to be the first when we had people reaching out to us and saying, and I'm sure that a lot of the ones that are coming out now, like the HOU NIL, it's something that I think has been in the works for a long time. But to go that big and that scale was really a huge undertaking, and I'm proud that somebody's doing that for Houston. That's a very big deal to me, because that was what it felt like we were missing, was some of that subscription-based. Donate what you want, donate as much as you want or as little as you want. That's a big business, and it's hard to control, and it's hard to run, and it really takes a lot of commitment. To do it for the school and to commit to the school in that way is huge. So kudos to those guys for doing everything that they're doing, and finding time to do all that was not something that we were really going to be able to commit to. So keeping it small, showing that it could be done. Once we set everything up, all of a sudden, all these NIL websites and trackers and companies and blue check mark people start reaching out to us, asking what's going on, wanting to talk and consult, asking me to consult on NIL stuff. And to me, that was really awesome, because I felt like maybe we did something right. Maybe we did spark something and put a little bit of University of Houston on the map. And that was real important, because that was the main thing, was not expecting the school to rah and rally for everything and get everybody going and support everybody. The school can't do anything with NIL. Yeah. And I think there are still a lot of people that have no idea what NIL or name, image, and likeness is, or what the school can or can't do, or when they hear that other Texas schools or national schools are paying players to do all these things. Well, why can't we just do that? I hear that all the time. Why can't we do that? But that's not the school's responsibility, and it's not legal. So that comes from the private sector and from fans and alumni. And I'm very proud that there are some things that looks like launching now, like the HOU NIL thing with Go Cougs. That's huge. And I think that there are a couple others from what I've read that are about to come out too. So competition is good. Mm-hmm. That's exciting. Yeah. Exciting to be a part of that. So.
Absolutely. And, kind of the things you touched on, just staying with the Hoop and Holler perspective, one of the things you reiterated is that you didn't see this as like, oh, this is something that in the grand scheme of things, it'll help us with recruit or anything. No, your focus was on helping out the players that were already here for the University of Houston and just kind of being able to partner with them, which right. That's like you mentioned, that's something that's a difference between, from the NIL. That's what NIL is supposed to be. Right. When it comes to being able to help athletes out. So I'm curious, from the Hoop and Holler perspective, is there just in terms of, maybe not necessarily scaling is the right phrase it, but what's the ultimate goal, or how do you envision Hoop and Holler from a year from now being able to grow within the University of Houston? Because like you said, now other platforms are beginning to pop up.
They all seem to be a little bit different too. And that's a big part of it. When one group does one thing, there will be somebody else doing another. Ours was really always sort of the idea was, how can we create an experience for fans? And one thing we did recently at the restaurant at Star Pizza was we printed up a bunch of Sac Avenue signs and gave them away. And we paid for that. And all you had to do was come to the restaurant. I didn't care if you bought pizza. I don't care if you bought a Coke. It didn't matter to me. But a lot of people did, and that was very important. And it was nice to see the restaurant filled with red. The team came out. They didn't have to do that, but they came out and had dinner with us and took pictures with fans and had a lot of fun, signed a lot of autographs. We hope we see a lot of those signs at the games. I know if I got one signed, I'm not bringing it to the game. So, but that was a big thing, was creating that fan experience, and no cost to the fan. They could come out, get a sign, take a picture with the guys from Sac Avenue or D.A. Jones if they wanted. And that was real cool to be able to have a platform to put that sort of event on. The restaurant kind of became that, not a playground, but it kind of gives me the opportunity with Hoop and Holler Houston to do something. Right now it's football season. We'll probably do something real soon for basketball in the same way.
For sure. And one of the things that you mentioned during the first segment of the series is that you were able to look at what some of the other schools were doing for inspiration. Now focusing back on the University of Houston, obviously, of course, they're less than a year now from joining the Big 12. How important is it for not just with you guys, but just NIL across, specifically in regard to the University of Houston, going forward, to be able to have that platform for the student athletes that do choose to come to the University of Houston, and again, in an ever-changing landscape across college football and college sports overall?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that a lot of the students and athletes that are committing to U of H and looking at U of H as an opportunity to go play sports, and whatever the sport is, whether it's volleyball or soccer or baseball or football or basketball, anyone that's looking to go to U of H is, as far as I can tell, is not looking to go to U of H to get paid. They're looking to go to U of H to compete in sports and go to the next level. And that's one of the things we learned from the guys that we've been working with, is that they recognize the college period is short, and it's an experience for them to move to hopefully a professional career. And that's what was important, was recognizing that this is something I can do with them, we can do with them. They can elevate their brand, which is what NIL is in the first place. It's elevating student athlete's brand and using that brand. If it's a popular person on the court or on the field or wherever, the volleyball court, if they're successful in their sport, then their name would have more clout in a commercial atmosphere, or in getting cameos, or doing tweets for someone's birthday, or sending something for someone's birthday. All those little things that those guys and girls can do is really cool. And looking at finding a way to let people know that those things are there, not just you can go film a commercial and sell trucks or sell an air conditioner, which that was an awesome one from that was best ever. No one will touch that. Knowing that they could use their name in a fun way to do stuff like that is really cool. And letting people know that there are other things, like just getting if your dad is a big U of H fan, you can get him a cameo from a basketball player, or a tweet sent out saying happy birthday from a football guy or a baseball pitcher or something. And those things are not expensive, but the money goes to the popular player or to the player themselves. And putting all those things out there, letting people know that all those opportunities are there. Whenever, Mattress Mac did something at his NIL thing with the basketball team after they finished the Elite Eight run, was an incredible opportunity to go out and spend 3 hours with that basketball team and ask questions and hang out. And hey, let them throw you a pass across the room, dribble the ball with them. I came up with something silly, and I had Josh Carlton hold the ball way up in the air when I could pretend like I was trying to reach for it, and he took it away from me. And he was like, "Oh, you don't want a regular picture?" And I said, "No, everybody gets a regular picture. I want the silly one." So that was fun. And those opportunities are there, and they're not expensive. And if you like sports, those are great opportunities for student athletes and the general public to be a part of.
Gotcha. Mike, as we wrap things up, I'll leave you with one final question. Just overall, since you've started the NIL experience with Hoop and Holler, and obviously, of course, being able to produce the commercials for Start Pizza, what's kind of the biggest lesson or message that's kind of stuck with you throughout the whole process that it's really going to help you going forward as you continue from the Hoop and Holler perspective?
Sure. Always hire a stuntman. The real deal always looks better, but sometimes things are a little more real than you think. Nobody got hurt in our football commercial. It was a lot of fun. The experience of going through this whole thing and learning as you go. At the restaurant, we always talk about every day is different. You learn something every day. If you think you know everything, you don't. I entered this into this thing with Hoop and Holler Houston and partnering it with Star Pizza because it was an easy relationship to do. If anybody else wanted to work with us, I was super open to anybody that would want to do anything and helping them and, make a handoff to a student athlete or to contact that I had. But the experience of getting to do it and learning as you go and finding out how things work in this NIL landscape, moving towards the Big 12 was the biggest takeaway from the whole thing. It was the experience of getting to do it, setting it up and getting to do it. And if it ended tomorrow, that'd be fine. We look to keep on going and doing more fun stuff. And hopefully the guys and girls on the U of H sports want to do the same.
For sure. Emphasis on stuntmen, because if something happened to the players, you'd have Dana Hogerson or Calvin Sampson on your back. Right. But once again, Mike, thank you for taking the time, being a part of Pod Slam and Jammo for the last 3 episodes with each of the segments. Once again, this at each of the name, image, and likeness segments were sponsored by at Texas Juan on Twitter. Be sure to give him a follow. And in an ever-changing world that is college athletics, name, image, and likeness is certainly going to be here to stay, and it's going to be just continuing to grow as the months, the days, the years progress. With, like you said, more people get experience with the entire process, so it's just going to continue to evolve as well. Mike, I'll give you the floor. Is there something you'd like to sign off with for the third and final segment?
I'll tell everybody, go to the games, show up, be loud, wear red, and go Cougs.